Extinction Ascended is finally here, and with it comes 107 unique creatures. In this video, I'll be ranking the top 10 creatures on the new map, as well as telling you everything you need to know about taming and using these absolute beasts. Two things I should mention are that I won't be ranking the new Armadago because it's paid DLC, and that this video will focus mainly on PvE. Make sure to leave a comment saying what your favorite creature on Extinction is, and without further ado, sit back and relax, and let's get into number 10. At number 10, I have the Megatherium. The Megatherium primarily spawns in the top right of the map in the snow biome, but it also can be found uncommonly in the sanctuary. When taming a Megatherium, the kibble it likes is superior kibble, and if you don't have that, give it giant bee honey, raw mutton, or raw prime meat. Extinction is scarce on a lot of resources that are very useful for playthroughs. One of those resources is cementing paste. Now, there is some dams and there are frogs that spawn in the sanctuary, but having a statistically strong chitin farmer like a Megatherium to go to the desert cave and get chitin with is really useful on this map. The other really underrated thing that I love about the Megatherium on this map is that using a Megatherium to run through the desert cave on Extinction gets you to the desert titan fight so much faster in progression than waiting for a Karcha, and having access to this desert titan fight way earlier in the game gives you so many high tier drops. Here's the drop table on screen now. It's just insanely useful. It's the easiest way to get through this desert titan fight in the early game because the hardest part of the desert titan fight is absolutely the cave. So yeah, I would definitely recommend trying this guy out. At number 9, I have the gas bags. The gas bag spawns all over the wasteland, but is most commonly found towards the bottom left of the map. I personally find it easiest to tame this right on the outskirts of the sanctuary though. The preferred food for the gas bags is the superior kibble, followed by the Archelon algae, crops, and mejo berries. One thing to note though is you can't get Archelon algae on this map because Archelons just don't spawn on Extinction, which is a little bit annoying. The gas bags makes my top 10 for a couple of reasons. The first one though being the fact that it's absurdly tanky. This tankiness is mostly used for PvP in the soaking department, but it's also useful for PvE. On a map like Extinction, it's really nice to know that you have a creature you can ride on the back of in the early game that's pretty hard to die with because of how strong it can be. Another stat that the gas bags excels in is the weight stat, which makes it a really great pack mule option for the early game and even the late game. The other thing that makes the gas bags a great pack mule besides the health and the weight is that it's actually very fast because of how far you can jump when it carries you. This mobility from the gas bags is pretty unbeatable when it comes to early game transportation on Extinction, so I would definitely give it a try even if you're just playing PvE. The other way that I like to use the gas bags on this map as a PvE player is by just using it as a pack mule after finishing the OSDs. I like to throw all the OSD loot onto a gas bags to get back to base safely and in a timely fashion. The gas bags would obviously be way higher on the list if I was considering soaking a lot more, but I'm just not considering PvP as much as PvE in the video, so that's why it falls at 9. At number 8, I have the Velonosaur. The Velo spawns throughout the entirety of the desert biome and is very common. Its preferred food when you're taming it is regular kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. The Velonosaur is the best base defense creature in the game. In regards to general PvE applications, the Velonosaur wouldn't really be that good on most maps, but on Extinction specifically, it really is. This is primarily because of the corrupted creatures that spawn, which can absolutely wreck your structures with ease if not accounted for. The Velonosaurs being set on turret mode during OSDs is also a really effective strategy at keeping a distance while getting out nice damage, so I would consider using them there as well. Just an excellent option to bring around with you at all times for extra DPS. You can use it in the early game as a safe battle mount to fight things from a distance. In the late game, you can use it as a bonus DPS or as base defense. And in PvP, it's even better. But yet again, we're ranking PvE for this video. If it were PvP, this would definitely be in the top 5. At number 7, I have the Karcha. As with every other map, the Karcha shares spawns with the Giga, and on Extinction, it's really not generous. The Karcha spawns in between the snow and the wasteland on that strip, and it's a pretty annoying area to tame Karchas in because of the changes in elevation and the annoying corrupted creatures. To start off with the pros, the Karcha is obviously an incredibly overpowered creature. It's arguably the best choice on the entire map for OSD defenses, which is really saying a lot because of how many strong creatures are on this map. The reasons for the Karcha being the best choice for this application are its really great stats, its really high speed, and its rage ability, which allows it to handle swarms of creatures in a timely fashion in a way that even the Giga can't do. The Karcha is one of the very few creatures on the map that allow a solo player to do a purple OSD, and that makes it on the top 10 for sure. The reason for the Karcha not being any higher is simply because there's solid alternative options for everything that the Karcha brings to the table on Extinction, and that simply can't be said about the top 6. This may come as a surprise to some of you, but the Doedic is number 6 on my list. The Doedic spawns almost exclusively in the desert biome, but can also be rarely found in the west side of the sanctuary. Its preferred food for taming is superior kibble, followed by Archelon algae, crops, and mejo berries. The Doedic is simply the best farmer on Extinction by a mile. The Doedic is obviously always very good for farming stone, but on this map especially, he's good for farming so much more. The Doedic is used for farming benches, lamps, and other structures in the sanctuary for element dust, electronics, scrap metal, and crystal. Having extremely easy access to a surplus of element dust, electronics, and metal is just really strong, especially all for one creature. And on top of that, it's still the best stone farmer on the map, so you definitely need to go get yourself one. Before I get into the top 5, I want to go over a couple honorable mentions because this map just has way too many strong creatures to fit into one top 10. The first honorable mention is the Quetzal. The Quetzal spawns scarcely on the entire left half of the map over the Sanctuary and over the Wasteland. Its preferred food is exceptional kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. The specific reason it makes the extinction list is because almost every one of the best strategies to fight the Desert Titan involve using a Quetzal. Like I previously mentioned with the Megatherium section, it's just really valuable to be able to get high tier drops from the Desert Titan while you're still unable to take on the Ice, Forest, and King Titan, which are all much tougher. My next honorable mention is the Mantis. The Mantis spawns most commonly on the bottom right of the desert biome. The biggest challenge for taming a mantis on extinction is needing deathworm horns for it, because the deathworms do not spawn in the desert. They don't even spawn anywhere near the desert in the wasteland. They actually only spawn in the top left of the map in corrupted form. The real challenge of getting the deathworms to come after you is the fact that you need to clear through a bunch of corrupted creatures to stay there and wait for it to actually come over and attack you. To keep it short, getting the mantis is definitely not a walk in the park, but the effort is very worth it. The mantis with high tier pickaxes is the best option on the entire map for farming the element veins by a mile. On top of this niche down use case, the mantis are just always good to have on any map with their high damage output and farming potential. Another honorable mention is just going to be the RG and the Anki. On screen now you can see where they both spawn, and for the RGs their preferred food is superior kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. And for Ankis, the preferred food is regular kibble, followed by Archelon algae, crops, and mejo berries. I'm not going to go into any specific details here. They're just obviously good like they always are as a farming duo on any map. Sure, the RG's a little bit overshadowed by the Snow Owl now for the pack mule use case just because of the speed disparity, but it's definitely better than the Snow Owl in some ways because it can carry creatures. The last honorable mention is the mech. I don't really consider this to be a creature, but it would be towards the top of the list if I did consider it to be one. The mech is a craftable item that is unlocked at level 91, I believe, and the blueprints that you can get for it to make it even stronger come mainly from OSDs. They're strong regardless of the tier, but the higher tiers are ridiculously powerful. The mech is very safe to use against the Forest Titan because you can't be pulled out of mechs unlike every other creature for this fight. It can also shoot the Desert Titan out of the sky with no risk, so that's a really nice feature. And the Mega Mech is by far the best option for fighting the Alpha King Titan as well. Just in general, riding a mech is one of the best options for these boss fights because this map is very unique in the sense that a Uranus buff really doesn't do as much, and a Uranus dies pretty much instantly to any of these titans if you get too close. Just very strong, very versatile, and high tiers of this can pretty much fend off anything on the map. Hey, if you're enjoying the video or finding it useful, please consider subscribing or liking the video. It really helps the channel and will help me reach my goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It'll also help you by making sure that you don't miss any other extinction content that I'm bringing to the channel later in the week. Also, I'm hosting a huge viewer event on my Discord in January, as well as a giveaway that's pretty massive as well. All of this will be announced more in detail on December 29th, so make sure to join up. At number 5, I have the brand new Dreadnoughtus. The spawn map is unavailable for the Dreadnoughtus so far because it just came out, but from what I've seen, it spawns in the Wasteland primarily on the left half of it, and taming it is a whole unique minigame where you defend the Dreadnoughtus as it eats an element vein. So to get the pros out of the way first, obviously the Dreadnoughtus is incredibly powerful. It has 100,000 plus HP, does ludicrous amounts of damage. I mean, the next swipe thing does like 7,000 damage. It's absolutely crazy. It also has a nice projectile ability with the saddle, which is cool, but doesn't have that many application uses for at least the PvE side of the game. In terms of the PvP side, it definitely will be useful to some extent just because of how tanky it is alone. It's ridiculous. It's going to at least be used as a really strong soaker for certain base spots, but I don't really see it going much further than that. The Dreadnoughtus has two things holding it back, one being a major issue and one being a more niche use case issue, but still definitely a problem. The biggest issue, of course, is the Dreadnoughtus is so slow. The lack of speed is so crippling that on PvE, the only application for the Dreadnoughtus is to take down the Titans on extinction, and for PvP, sure, it's a little bit better because you can soak with it, but even then, most bases are too small for you to be able to fit a Dreadnoughtus into soak. So yeah, there's just definitely a lot of logistical issues using the Dreadnoughtus in most applications, but the fact is, he's way too strong to not make the top 5. The stats are just crazy. I have the Giga just one slot higher than the Dreadnoughtus on my list, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The Giga spawns in the same areas as the Karcha, which is on the strip around the snow biome in the Wasteland. Corrupted Gigas are super common on the map, but the ones that are non-corrupted only spawn here. A Giga's preferred food for taming is exceptional kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. Even though they've added the Dreadnoughtus and the Karcha in recent years to try to make some competitors for the Giga, I still think it reigns supreme over all the raw power tames. He's as close to a jack of all trades as a creature can get for just having sheer power. He's way better than the Dreadnoughtus for OSDs because it's faster and still has huge power output. It's worse than Karchus for OSDs, but it's only slightly. And it's way better than Karchus for Titans because of its higher health pool, because of its not needing to charge up a rage meter to do damage. Because when you're fighting the Titans, besides the King Titan, there's no many creatures for you to kill to get the rage meter to do even more damage. So it's really just not as good. You also need to look at these fights like a expiring thing. Basically, when you send in Gigas or Karchus against any of these Titans, they're gonna die. So it's how much damage can they get out before they die? That's really the question, and the Giga wins that competition every time. You can also swarm more Gigas around the Titan than the Dreadnoughtus because of its smaller hitbox. This and the speed advantage gives it a considerable burst damage potential, which is at least comparable to the Dreadnoughtus, probably better. The Dreadnoughtus is of course better just because it has hundreds of thousands of HP and doesn't die during the fight, but the Giga is still a totally valid option, and it makes it, in my opinion, just better than the Dreadnoughtus because of its versatility. At number 3, I have the Gotcha. The Gotcha spawns all around the Sunken Forest and nowhere else on the map, and it eats basically any structure, preferring tech structures followed by greenhouse and metal structures. When passively taming the Gotcha, just feed it the cheapest structure from these sets because all types of the structure work the same. For example, ceilings are cheaper than foundations, so just feed it ceilings. The Gotcha is the best passive farmer in the entirety of Ark, producing resources that are insanely good like element dust, black pearls, and other high quality gear. I'm not going to get into super heavy detail about how to make farms for this, there's a lot of videos online for that already, but I will say this, them allowing Pegomastics to passively pick up the crystals makes an automated farm for the Gotcha very easy to do and insanely strong. The Gotcha is incredibly good in both PvP and PvE because everybody needs resources. On screen now, you'll see the entire drop table for the higher tiers of the Gotcha crystals. This is basically everything besides the resources that it produces. If you pump crafting skill, it also produces even higher tiers of these pre-crafted items and gives you more of the basic resources. The Gotcha also synergizes really well with number 2 on my list, the Snow Owl. The Snow Owl spawns in the snow. Its preferred food for taming is superior kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. It comes equipped with a dive bomb and good stamina, so this is one of the best ways to traverse the map in a solid time, and it has really good weight too, so you can carry a lot of stuff with you. On top of being a great choice as a pack mule, this can also heal allied creatures, which is an exceptionally useful skill to have for a flyer. The Snow Owl also produces pellets, which are used for the Gotcha to buff their drops even further, which is a really nice trait to have as well. The only downside for the Snow Owl is that it can't pick up other creatures. At number 1, I have the Managarmer, and it's not really that close. Just like the owl, this spawns exclusively in the snow biome, particularly towards the outskirts and top side of it. Its preferred food for taming is exceptional kibble, followed by raw mutton and prime meat. The Managarmer is the best mobility option inside of Ark for most applications, has an insanely strong freeze breath ability, great general stats, especially for how versatile it is, and is just awesome. The best application for the Managarmer, besides just being the best thing to ride in the game, is it's the best option for element veins too, because the ice breath doesn't damage the veins at all, which is really convenient. The best way I can think of describing how good the Managarmer is even if you were horrible at Ark, like absolutely terrible, it's pretty much still impossible to die while you're on the back of this. Like, I can't even imagine dying to anything. I don't know what would kill you. There's a reason this is still used by all the griefing players that are super overpowered. It just isn't possible to make this bad. It's gotten nerfed a million times and it's still this good. Well, that's my list. If you enjoyed this video, then I'm sure you'll enjoy the video linked on screen now, where I rank Ark's bosses in detail, including the 4 Extinction Titans. See you there. Bye!